The media greatly influences society. They inform people about what is happening. It permeates people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Ambazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades, but not in this age and not with Undaunted ABC Amba News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution on Ambazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without highlighting the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers, among other strategic moves, weaponized the media against Ambazonia for so long, and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the oppressed people of Ambazonia need to counter the media rage?
Indeed, how much more is required to stop the genocide? The carnage in Ambazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1972, 1984, 1992, Ambazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper in the media.
The good news is we have what it takes to dictate the pace.
Right now, ABC Amba TV is taking advantage of the wonders of multimedia aggressively
to inform the misinformed and disinformed with Undaunted and other revolutionary programs bringing it to the news untold stories.
Most importantly, to win the media war by taking ABC Amba TV into every multimedia platform.
In a word, where the importance of storytelling can never be overemphasized, Ambazonians has to tell her own story, not the other way round.
And like we say it always, Ambazonia must narrate her story accurately. We can do this together, you know, right? You are just a click away. Visit our website at www.abcambatv.com, and the steps are quite simple.
With just a click on the website, you can become a club member with so many benefits.
You can also make a one-time donation, advertise and showcase your goods and services at the marketplace on the website.
That was easy, right? You're welcome on board.
And thank you for opting for the winning team.
From the Savannah to the Midland and the Atlantic, Ambazonia has risen to fall no more. Ambazonia rise.
Dear Ambazonians on the home front and diaspora.
Dear Ambazonia freedom fighters in the home front and in the diaspora.
The Ethics Commission of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia is coming out to alert you that it is becoming more and more evident that the former British Southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonians, will soon emerge as the newest nation in the world.
We are calling on all of us to start preparing to receive Ambazonia as parents prepare to receive their firstborn child. Malcolm X said, tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. We are already very educated, talented, and very rich in natural resources. Do all this guarantee a safe and prosperous Ambazonia? The answer is an emphatic no. Theodore Roosevelt said, to educate a person in the mind but not in morals is to educate a menace in society.
Ambazonians, it is time to start planning to restore our cultural and social values that characterize us as a people of good repute. Before our Republic to Cameroon invasion, we were respectful of each other, of the law, and of our culture. We earned our living through honest hard work, making clean money for ourselves.
Our values helped us to maximize the benefits of our natural resources as well as our human resources. Southern Cameroons were serene and clean, simply beautiful in spirit and in the physical. We all long for such a place to call home, and we can make it happen by God's grace.
Our local government areas and counties, are you preparing? Do you have an ethics commission in your local government areas, counties to serve as a moral compass for you? Do you have a copy of the Ambazonia Ethics Code and the Constitution?
arms of government, do you have an ethics agency? Departments of DSS, HSS, Communications and IT, Education, DHACM, DFA, and DEINR. Do you have ethics agency to serve as a moral compass for your departments?
Ambazonians, you need to know your rights by reading the Ethics Code and the Constitution.
Shame unethical behavior and reward good behavior in your communities. Hold leaders accountable. Be the watchdog of your communities and governments. See something, say something.
The church, you are the main research center of moral principles with the responsibility of moralizing the society. How effective are you outside the church building?
Maya Angelou said, when you know better, then you do better. Ambazonians, watch ethics for an emerging Ambazonia every Friday at 10 p.m. Amba time.
Exclusively on ABC Amba TV. Stay tuned.
Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. Boris Johnson's dirty politics, high-headedness and recklessness's prime of Great Britain drops him into a boiling pot, black soup. Boris is the same individual who has been insistent on the deportation of refugees from the UK to Africa, also in defiance of injunctions and human rights laws. Boris would ignore wise counsel. Boris. On Tuesday evening, two of the biggest players in his government, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, and the Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, resigned within moments of each other, swiftly trailed by lawmakers, junior minister and parliamentarian assistants. On Wednesday, things got worse. A cascade of resignations culminated in an extraordinary encounter at 10 Downing Street, the Prime Minister's official residence. A host of cabinet members assembled, telling Mr. Johnson to step down. He refused, but by Thursday morning, he had agreed to resign as Conservative leader. He plans to stay on as Prime Minister until the autumn, though it's unclear that he'll be able to. Meanwhile, cost of living crisis is driving a breathtaking surge in extreme poverty, UNDP. The world economy is at the verge of brink. What's happening? What could be the possible solution? IMF cannot rule out global recession. IMF Chief Kristalina Georgieva said the fund will downgrade its 2022 forecast for 3.6 PCT growth. Amba War Draft 2022, our 22 is finally here. It brings with the Great Mesam County on the 16th of July. Ambazonians believe the commencement of the draft is long overdue. La République du Cameroon's evil practices within knows no bounds and has got to stop. And in tonight's Undaunted, we will give examples of the fall of the Franco-Bolo hegemony in the Cameroons. Report has it that there is confusion in the camp of the enemy. But before we get into the crux of the matter, let's get the prime headlines.
Prime headlines for today, Thursday, 7th July. Today we will start with the news by analyzing the cost of living crisis driving breathtaking surge in extreme poverty, UNDP says. New UK Finance Minister Zahawi pledges to boost economy, and he has said nothing is off the table. It was totally unrealistic and clearly a lie to believe the Ambazonians could be absorbed into a unitary state. Now that is a statement we will consider today. IMF staff completes mission for the second reviews of the extended credit facility and extended funds facility for Cameroon, says outlook is clouded with considerable uncertainty as food and fuel prices soar. We will also look at colonial authorities maintaining sealed lips more than a week after a soldier allegedly killed his girlfriend. Memo Award 2022 national launch. What is there to note? We will consider that today as well. And in sports, Paris Saint-Germain appoints Frenchman Christopher Glitier as manager after Mauricio Pochettino's exit.
Amongst the many shocking stats and facts highlighted by an international advocacy organization, Oxfam in April, it was noted that the West African region experienced a loss in gross domestic product, GDP estimated at $48.7 billion and a loss of working hours equivalent to 7 million jobs. And surveys from 8 countries found more than 60% of citizens reported lost income or work because of COVID-19. Now, recently on Thursday, a report published by the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, warned the global cost of living crisis is pushing an additional 71 million people in the world's poorest countries into extreme poverty. This shows the consistent declination of the economy and its effect on poor African countries. This is where we begin the news briefings of tonight. I am Star Smart, and here with me is Onyi Opala. Good evening, Onyi.
Good evening. Achim Steiner, UNDP administrator, said an analysis of 159 developing countries showed that the surge in key commodity prices this year was already slamming parts of sub-Saharan Africa, the Balkans, Asia, and elsewhere. The UNDP called for tailored action. It was seeking direct cash hideouts to the most vulnerable and wanted richer nations to extend and widen out the Debt Service Suspension Initiative, DSSI. They set up to help poor countries during the COVID-19 pandemic. The cost of living crisis is tipping millions of people into poverty and even starvation at a breathtaking speed. Steiner said, With that, the threat of increased social unrest grows by the day. We have seen COVID and war as two major reasons why there is economic crisis, and especially in countries like Ambazonia, where there is an ongoing war with not enough support from international bodies. It's really challenging. The economy is being raped. It's a global economic crisis.
Indeed. And institutions like the UN, World Bank, and International Monetary Fund have a number of poverty lines, one for the poorest countries where people live on $1.90 or less a day, and a $3.20 a day line for lower middle income economies, and a $5.50 a day line in upper middle income countries. We project that the current cost of living crisis may have pushed over 51 million more people into extreme poverty at $1.90 a day and an additional 20 million at $3.20 a day, the report said, estimating it would push the total globally to just over 1.7 billion people.
It added that targeted cash transfers by governments would be more equitable and cost-effective than blanket subsidies on things like energy and food prices that richer parts of society tends to benefit more from. In the longer term, the drive inequality further exacerbates the climate crisis and do not soften the immediate blow, the UNDP's head of strategic policy engagement, George Gray Molina, said.
The last 2 years of the pandemic have also shown that these cash-strapped countries would need support from the global community to fund these schemes. They could do so, Molina said, by extending the G20-led debt service suspension initiative, DSSI, by 2 more years and expand it to at least 85 countries from a currently eligible 73. Meanwhile, the new UK Finance Minister Zahawi believes he can rebuild the economy. Let's see what Gabelesin has for us in that regard.
New UK Finance Minister Zahawi pledges to boost economy, says nothing off the table. Britain's new Finance Minister, Nadim Zahawi, pledged on Wednesday to rebuild and grow the struggling economy and said he would look at all policy options, including possible tax cuts. Zahawi, who took over the Treasury on Tuesday after the resignation of Rishi Sunak in protest against embattled Prime Minister Boris Johnson, said nothing is off the table. But the former education minister also faced questions about whether he would even have a chance to steer the economy out of its slowdown, given Johnson's weakening grip on power. Among other government ministers to quit were Health Minister Sajid Javid and Junior Finance Minister John Glenn, who was responsible for the City of London. Britain's economy has lost momentum as inflation heads for double digits and growth is forecast to be weaker than other big industrialized economies next year. Bank of England chief economist Hope Hill said he did not expect any economic growth over the next year or so as households face the highest inflation in 40 years. Britain is also struggling to adjust to life after Brexit. Economists and Zahawi's appointment and the possibility of a new prime minister both raised the prospect of faster growth and possibly more interest rate hikes by the BOE in response. The potential medium-term gains might make the near-term status caused by a new Tory leader contest worth it. Samuel Tomes, chief UK economist with Pantheon Macroeconomics, said. He said a more pragmatic approach to relations with the European Union would lift exports and investment by companies. Tax cuts to come? Zahawi, widely credited in the Conservative Party for successfully overseeing Britain's COVID-19 vaccine rollout, said 2023 was shaping up to be really hard. Zahawi hinted at moves to ease taxes on individuals and a rethink of Sunak's plan to raise taxes on businesses next year. Nothing's off the table. I will look at everything. When boards invest, companies invest, they invest for the long term and they do compare corporation tax rates, he told Times Radio. Many conservative lawmakers want tax cuts and Sunak had been looking at ways to boost lackluster business investment. The government was likely to have some room for tax cuts under official forecast made in March. But since then, Britain's growth and inflation outlooks have worsened. Zahawi said his priority was to fight inflation, something that could be aggravated by tax cuts. And he also stressed the need to fix the public finances after Sunak's £400 billion response to the coronavirus pandemic. We have just come out of the equivalent of a world war. We have to rebuild the economy and return to growth, he said. Zahawi was appointed after Sunak quit the job in protest at Johnson's standards and citing differences over economic policy with the Prime Minister. The opposition Labour Party said the political chaos was compounding the economy's problem. The pound is weak because the government is weak, and a weak pound means the cost of energy, the cost of petrol and diesel go up and up and up, said Rachel Reeves, Labour's would-be finance minister. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
The International Monetary Fund (IMF) works to achieve sustainable growth and prosperity for all of its 190 member countries. It does so by supporting economic policies that promote financial stability and monetary cooperation, which of course are very essential to increase productivity, job creation, and economic well-being. The IMF is governed by and accountable to its member countries. The IMF was established in 1944 in the aftermath of the Great Depression of the 1930s. 44 founding member countries sought to build a framework for international economic cooperation. Today, its membership embraces 190 countries with staff drawn from 150 nations. The IMF is governed by and accountable to these 190 countries that make up its near global membership. We are here today to consider what they think about the global recession.
Yes, Onyi, the IMF outlook for the global economy has darkened significantly. Since April, with the head of the International Monetary Fund saying she could not rule out a possible global recession next year, given the elevated risks. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva said the fund will, for the third time this year, downgrade its 2022 forecast for 3.6% global economic growth. The IMF is expected to release its updated outlook for 2022 and 2023 in late July after slashing its forecast by nearly a full percentage point in April. The global economy expanded by 6.1% in 2021.
The outlook since our last update in April has darkened significantly, she said to Reuters, citing a moral universal spread of inflation, more substantial interest rate hikes, a slowdown in China's economic growth, and escalating sanctions related to Russia's war in Ukraine. We are in very choppy waters, she said. Asked if she could rule out a global recession, she says the risk has gone up, so we cannot rule it out. Recent economic data shows some large economies, including those of China and Russia, had contracted in the second quarter, she said, noting the risks were given higher in 2023. It's going to be tough 2022, but maybe even a tougher 2023, she added.
She also said recession risk increased in 2023. Investors are growing increasingly concerned about recession risks, with a key part of the U.S. Treasury yield curve inverted for a second straight day on Wednesday. In what has been a reliable indicator, a recession is looming. U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell last month said the central bank was not trying to engineer a recession, but was fully committed to bringing prices under control, even if doing so risks an economic downturn. Georgieva said a longer-lasting tightening of financial conditions would complicate the global economic outlook, but added that it was crucial to get surging prices under control.
Slower economic growth may be a necessary price to pay given the urgent and pressing needs to restore price stability, she added. Georgieva cited a growing risk of divergence between fiscal and monetary policies and urged countries to carefully calibrate those actions to avert any chance of fiscal support undermining central bankers' efforts to control inflation. In her words, she says we need to create the same strong level of coordination between central banks and finance ministries so they provide support in a very targeted way and don't weaken what monetary policies are aiming to achieve, she said.
You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned. You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned. You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned.
The media greatly influences society. They inform people about what is happening. It permeates people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Ambazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades, but not in this age and not with Undaunted ABC Amba News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution on Ambazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without highlighting the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers, among other strategic moves, weaponized the media against Ambazonia for so long, and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the oppressed people of Ambazonia need to counter the media rage?
Indeed, how much more is required to stop the genocide? The carnage in Ambazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1972, 1984, 1992, Ambazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper in the media.
The good news is we have what it takes to dictate the pace.
Right now, ABC Amba TV is taking advantage of the wonders of multimedia aggressively
to inform the misinformed and disinformed with Undaunted and other revolutionary programs bringing it to the news untold stories.
Most importantly, to win the media war by taking ABC Amba TV into every multimedia platform.
In a word, where the importance of storytelling can never be overemphasized, Ambazonians has to tell her own story, not the other way round.
And like we say it always, Ambazonia must narrate her story accurately. We can do this together, you know, right? You are just a click away. Visit our website at www.abcambatv.com, and the steps are quite simple.
With just a click on the website, you can become a club member with so many benefits.
You can also make a one-time donation, advertise and showcase your goods and services at the marketplace on the website.
That was easy, right? You're welcome on board.
And thank you for opting for the winning team. Boris Johnson has stepped down as leader of the Conservative Party today, Thursday, 7th July 2022, making way for a new Prime Minister. following an avalanche of resignations by members of his party that eroded his authority and paralyzed the British government. Speaking to a crowd of supporters and onlookers at the lectern outside 10 Downing Street, Johnson said, "It is clearly now the will of the Parliamentary Conservative Party that there should be a new leader of that party and therefore a new Prime Minister." Johnson did not become emotional, nor did he apologize for the behavior that brought the 58-year-old politician to this low point.
You would want to wonder what kind of attitude that is. A leader is supposed to have integrity, right? Well, he blamed his party for his downfall, comparing his fellow lawmakers to stampeding animals. In his words, he says, "We have seen at Westminster when the herd moves, it moves, and my friends, in politics, no one is remotely indispensable." That's what he said. But you know, there will be no general election. Instead, the next leader of Britain will be chosen in a vote by dues-paying members of the Conservative Party, which will remain in power. Johnson said he would serve until a new leader is in place, which could take 6 weeks or longer. He appointed a new cabinet of officials to replace all the ministers who had abandoned him while pledging not to implement new policies or make major changes of direction. Just like I said earlier, there will be no general elections. Instead, the next leader of Britain will be chosen in a vote by dues-paying members of the Conservative Party, which will remain in power. Johnson said he will serve until a new leader is in place, which could take 6 weeks or longer. He appointed new cabinet officials to replace all the ministers who had abandoned him while pledging to implement new policies or make major changes of directions. Now, let's watch this clip from Boris Johnson.
And to that new leader, I say, whoever he or she may be, I say I will give you as much support as I can. And to you, the British public, I know that there will be many people who are relieved and perhaps quite a few who will also be disappointed. And I want you to know how sad I am to be giving up the best job in the world. But them's the breaks. I want to thank Carrie and our children and all the members of my family who have had to put up with so much for so long. I want to thank the peerless British Civil Service for all the help and support that you have given our police, our emergency services, and of course our fantastic NHS, who at critical moment helped to extend my own period in office, as well as our armed services and our agencies that are so admired around the world, and our indefatigable Conservative Party members and supporters whose selfless campaigning makes our democracy possible. I want to thank the wonderful staff here at Chequers, here at number 10, and of course at Chequers, and our fantastic prop force detectives, the one group, by the way, who never leak. Above all, I want to thank you, the British public, for the immense privilege that you have given me. And I want you to know that from now on until the new Prime Minister is in place, your interests will be served and the government of the country will be carried on. Being Prime Minister is an education in itself. I've travelled to every part of the United Kingdom, and in addition to the beauty of our natural world, I've found so many people possessed of such boundless British originality and so willing to tackle old problems in new ways that I know that even if things can sometimes seem dark now, our future together is golden. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
According to Mbelek Mbadange, the former Prime Minister Phumon Yang, the Minister of Defense Beti Asomo, the Minister of Justice Lauren Edsel, the Secretary of State for the Gendarmerie, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Territorial Administration, Atanga Injipol, and some other top elites have a meeting chaired by the French ambassador to La République du Cameroon, Christophe Guillot. He's been engaged in a bitter exchange of hard words, blaming each other for fueling or failing to stop the ongoing war in southern Cameroon. The La République du Cameroon Minister of Defense accused Atanga Njipol for making matters worse from the beginning of the war, and all he, Atanga Nji, wants is always more money. So there seems to be a lot of misunderstanding in the camp of their enemy. What do you think?
I agree with you, Onyi. Even the Bible says there is no peace for the wicked. And Atanga Njipol, in turn, dumped the blame at the doorsteps of the so-called elites for failing to deliver what they have been asked to deliver, in order to set that total confusion in their respective localities, whereas money for that job had been given to them. Philemon Yang and Mafani Musonge were jointly accused by the French ambassador to La République du Cameroon that Mafani and Yang were not doing enough and have failed in their respective missions. The ambassador went further, claiming that Yang, Mafani, and some southern Cameroon elites seem to lack the will but not the means to stop the ongoing revolution. Yang, in his turn, accused the Minister of Defense, the Delegate General for National Security, and the Secretary of State in charge of the Gendarmerie for the indiscipline within their troops, which has radicalized the populations, especially youths, which has caused the population in general to support and protect armed groups.
The Minister of Defense insisted that he and the Secretary of State for the Gendarmerie and the Delegate for National Security were mostly acting on instructions from France. The quarrel degenerated when the ministers started accusing each other for using the war to make money other than to stop it. There were more fingers pointed at Atanga Njipol, the Minister of Defense, and the governors of the northern and southern zones for using the crisis to make more money for themselves while armed groups gained more grounds.
There seems to be a lot of trouble at the Ministry of Defense. Another one is the soldiers of La République du Cameroon as a whole want a full list of all the soldiers killed in action to be made public. This is so because the wives and the family members of the deceased military men and women keep complaining that they have not seen or heard from the loved ones for more than 4 months. A house divided in itself can never stand. There's a report from Gabalisin on Dieudonné Essamba. I'd like that we listen to that now.
Dieudonné Essamba, a prolific critic, once again wants the Yaoundé ruling junta being misled by the so-called academics that the Ambazonian war is not one that can be solved within the framework of a unitary state, and that the rising of Ambazonian spirit cannot be quelled by a squad of gendarmes. Essamba adds that now that the spirit of self-determination is revealed in its true nature as a fierce and ruthless bloody war waged by people presenting themselves as an army of liberation against the occupying forces, the Yaoundé misleading academics have disappeared. Dieudonné Essamba writes, and I read, "Another aspect of the government's loneliness in this famous Anglophone crisis that is destroying Cameroon. Our country is not an exception in the world, and we do not have the monopoly of the cessations. The study of cessation movements shows that we can have two types of results. Either the cessation is resolved by force or by political concessions, or it wins and obtains separation. To solve this problem, one should not assume that the government will win because Nigeria has defeated the Biafran secession, because if Nigeria did it, Sudan failed to defeat the South Sudanese secession and Ethiopia gave it to Eritrea. We should therefore not assume a victory for the central state because nothing tells us that the case of Ambazonia is closer to Biafra than to South Sudan." It is these errors of analysis, supported by high-profile academics, that have pushed the government into this bloody abyss where Cameroonian youth are drowning. As I said from the outset, against these enlightened academics who were calling for my arrest, the Anglophone crisis is not one that can be solved within the framework of a unitary state. It is a cessation that is too big since it extends over 42,000 kilometers square and embraces 20% of the population. Secondly, it has obvious historical foundations since Southern Cameroon had a different colonial history and existed as a federated state. You cannot therefore obliterate these realities overnight on the basis of a selective reading of history and legal and institutional fiddling. It was clearly a lie to believe that Anglophones could be absorbed into a unitary state, and such a project was totally unrealistic. Cameroon's academics, through abstruse quotations and abracadabra theories, convinced the government that all it had to do was to use force. By using convoluted expressions such as third-category force or fancy words, they gave the secession a totally romantic vision of a small movement that could be reduced by a squad of gendarmes. Now that secession is revealed in its true nature as a fierce and ruthless bloody war waged by people presenting themselves as an army of liberation against the occupying forces, these academics have disappeared. They are nowhere to be seen except two, Owona Ngini, who has exchanged his status as a high strategist teaching at the École de Guerre for that of coaching the indomitable lions, Edward Buchain, who became an exegete of the Bible. The others have disappeared at a time when the government needs them more than ever. This is exactly the intellectual staff on which Biya and his government have based their hopes. Where can people of this nature lead you? They are simply waiting for the fall of the regime to put themselves at the service of the next master. Shame on you. Esomba has been very severe against his government for a while now, though to some Ambazonians his tongue may be flattering. We do not yet understand his objectives. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
Some weeks back, we talked about basic amenities in connection to the Womb Road. Well, we are not done yet. The road linking Bamenda, the chief town of the Midland zone of Ambazonia, to the west region of La République du Cameroon is a nightmare. The road, termed the Bamenda-Babaji Road, is the main commercial road to the people of Ambazonia. Users of this stretch of road waste a lot of time navigating the potholes of the road and at times spending the night at the spot as well as deepening holes. It is now more than a year that the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph Dion Ngute of the colonial government, promised that he would do something about the road, that he's going to take it as his responsibility. Well, he promised an immediate construction of the stretch of the road in 2021. Well, here we are in 2022. July 2022, no work has been done. This is just a calculated attempt to punish the people of Ambazonia. What can one expect of a government whose PM is unavailable to fulfill a single promise of basic amenities?
That's indeed a very good question right there. It is already a year now since Cameroon's colonial Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph Dion Ngute, assured that construction works at the Bamenda-Babaji Road were starting. However, the road has remained a nightmare to the people of Ambazonia, plying it as no work has been done since the PM promised. While on a so-called peace mission to Bamenda, a chief town of Midland zone of Ambazonia, in 2021, the colonial PM promised that immediately he lands in Yaoundé, the political capital, that work was going to commence. Promising and failing the people of Ambazonia is normal with the colonial Yaoundé regime. The colonial president of La République du Cameroon did promise the construction of a ring road to link the savannah states of Ambazonia to Midland zone. Decades have passed and the ring road is still in shambles.
You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned. You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned.
All right, so when we have issues that has to do with basic communities like this, I mean, one would wonder why it is difficult. When we talked about the Womb Road, I think we were supposed to have the news director, but he was unavoidably absent on that particular report. But here we are with another basic communities that should not take so long for a promise to be fulfilled. Road.
I mean,
Star, what do you
basic
think?
amenities.
Basic
We've
amenities.
spoken about this before, and amongst the basic fundamental human rights, they have a right to a lot of things, and these are like basic fundamental amenities that they need. They can't do without. I mean, you see people getting stranded on the road and all the whole commotion there. It's something that is really necessary.
And it's amazing that in Africa you find where the leaders are talking about things like road as a promise. You know, they go for their rallies, go for their campaigns, and then they are promising the people road. What happened to industries? What happened to technical innovations? What happened to other issues that can help a growing society, a growing community, a growing state, and a growing country? What is road? But we have our news director here who I'm sure would want to expand on this particular issue. I mean, we needed people to have access to wherever they want to go to, yes.
Because even if indeed they do have all those, you know, establishments and industries, where would they take to get there?
Probably they will have to fly.
Probably choppers.
All right. All right. Mr. Tapadi King, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for having me to join you in this discussion. I think this is quite important, very instrumental that we collectively talk about it. And you guys are doing fabulously well. I must say that you're doing the analysis, almost all the analysis. Yeah, it was a faith promised. They have always lied to the peoples of the former British Southern Cameroon. They have always lied. uh, John Gute, Celine, I call him Celine John Gute, actually made that promise when he visited Bamenda sometime last year. And the objective of his trip in Bamenda, and there was a heavy attack from General Okoro in Santa because his visit was not welcomed by the denizens of Meta, and he was attacked. His objective when he made that to Bamenda, deceive our people, as always. That's what Cameroon has done. They've always made fake promises. The ring road was promised by Bia. It's been 40 years, and you can barely travel. Now the stretch between Bamenda and Babaju. Babaju, if you have to study the colonial boundaries, the boundaries that were given to Southern Cameroons, Babaju is technically, that's a discussion we're going to get when negotiation is coming up, and when Cameroon and French Cameroon and or La République du Cameroon and Southern Cameroons will be deciding on carving their borders. A place like Babaju, it belongs to Southern Cameroon. You have the Kongsambas. This is an aside, I just want to take an advantage to talk on this. Even in Douala, Bonaberi, the boundary of Southern Cameroons, that's what I'm doing, so I'm talking audaciously. It is not the Wuri, it's not the bridge after Tico. No, it is the Wuri River, the Bonaberi Bridge. Everybody living in Bonaberi going towards Mutengeniko is in Ambazonia, officially what is in the map. So that's a discussion for another day. But you will realize that they have developed routes that have to do with their interests. Why do they do it? I'm not here to talk about the roads. We all know the roads are bad. In Bamenda, there is no single good road. Nothing is working. Even in the central town, you have potholes. But what's the objective? The objective is to make the people vulnerable. The objective is to victimize them. The objective is to torture them. When you make a people vulnerable, they come and when you bring peanuts, because Cameroon has two strategies. They come to intimidate or to manipulate. When they cannot intimidate you, they will manipulate you. In other words, when they cannot manipulate you, they intimidate you. Either you're detained or you're incarcerated, you're killed. That's what happens. And
Yeah,
they've been
Mr.
doing that
Paddy.
all and on, year after year, decade after decade. That's what they do.
Yeah, before you continue, I got stuck at a point where you spoke about just thinking maybe boundary issues might be part of the reason why that particular road may have been ignored. Do you think so? Because you're trying to clarify that there is a boundary and that part belongs to Southern Cameroon. So don't you think that probably the boundary issues may have been the reason why that particular road spot may have been ignored?
Well, I think only it's more than that. It could be because French Cameroon is really not interested in developing Ambazonia per se. It could be possible that because that is a part of Amazonia, it has been abandoned. And what you've just asked there reminds me of a lofty promise Samuel Eto'o made. You guys reported it about 2 weeks ago that he's going to start constructing stadium or stadia, and Bamenda will be the first. That was an insult. I saw some fools, those who call themselves Anglophones, on the social media being excited. That was an insult. How on earth was it possible that Bamenda didn't have a stadium now, until now? How on earth? How is it possible? So him coming to give another promise, which we know there's no feasibility that he's going to construct it. It took them long. Even at the time they were having the Nations Cup, they decided to ignore Bamenda. They had it in Bafoussam. They did it in Victoria because of the petrol in Sonora, and they did it in Douala. They organized the Nations. I will not call it a national African Cup. It was a regional in a small fraction. A town like Bamenda, going to what the human resource, intellectual capacity of people in Bamenda. Perhaps if we want to consider the Cameroon construct as a people together or the one Cameroon lie, we want to say the Bamenda should be one of the most developed cities in the two Cameroons put together, but that is the opposite. So there are lots of reasons. It's more political, it's more a plan to torture. It's a way, like I said, the whole objective is to make the people miserable so that they can conform to their input.
All right.
Thank you very much.
No, not quite.
All right. All right, Mr. Tao, we'll definitely come back to you before the end of the news. Please stand by. After the octogenarian President Paul Biya of La République du Cameroon declared war on Ambazonia since November 30th, 2017, his terrorist military in Amberland has proven without any doubt it is on a mandate kill with impunity. Now here is the question: how can we qualify government soldiers that purportedly should be seen as forces of the law and order? That should be protectors of the civilian population, but instead they become terror to its own people. This can only be possible with an oppressive regime when the so-called forces of law and order are adamant to the people's plight and unapologetically and increasingly inflict the sovereignty of the people they are supposed to protect.
Indeed, it's a question we wonder. When the protector becomes the predator. A young girl by name Nchinda Ophelia Gaife, a native of Oku in Buyi County, has died, and accusing fingers are pointing at her boyfriend, a terrorist Cameroon soldier working in Bamenda local government area, capital of the restive northwest region of Cameroon. The incident happened in the night of Saturday breaking Sunday, June 26, 2022 at the Blue Moon neighborhood, Bamenda County. We gathered that Ophelia, who had spent some time at a health facility in Bamenda because of ill health, was asked by the father to return to the village because of the harsh treatment that she was going through in the hand of a terrorist soldier, her boyfriend. That fateful Saturday, Ophelia went to get her belongings, not knowing she was actually going to meet her end in the hands of her oppressor boyfriend, the father of the child said.
Neighbors affirmed they heard them arguing and that the argument ended when they heard a gunshot. This is a quote by one of the neighbors. Says he put the gun in the girl's mouth and pulled the trigger, shattering her head. She died on the spot. His colleagues came and prevented anyone from even seeing the body. Now, a source familiar with the incident explained to Drainfos. Other sources have, however, indicated that Ophelia committed suicide by shooting herself with her boyfriend's gun while he and their child were deep asleep. This version may just be a distraction. How will somebody going to pack a belonging instead take a life? Though we could not confirm the circumstances surrounding the death of the lady, we were made to understand that her death was only made known when the brother with whom she was to travel to the village on Sunday visited her at a mobile Nkwem to no avail, and not even from terrorist military boyfriend.
You know, after trying in vain to reach his sister on phone, he decided to go and check what was happening, only to see his sister's corpse being put in a vehicle to be taken to the mortuary. Despite calls from different quarters for investigations to be conducted in order to get to the root of what actually happened to Nchinda Ophelia, colonial administrative authorities in the Northwest have decided to maintain a sealed lips for more than 10 days that the incident happened. Is this not just another proof that an Ambazonian life doesn't matter before the colonialist government? Nchinda Ophelia is one too many sent to early graves by the oppressive Yaoundé regime.
Just a reminder that a soldier shot and killed two unarmed civilians, Ibrahim Yinju Taler and Che Henry, at Ayaba Hotel in the month of February 2022 in Bamenda chief town of the Red Steve Midland zone of Ambazonia instead of Northwest region of Cameroon. It's about 5 months in counting with the bereaved families, and the people of Ambazonia are still to get an official statement on the arrest and trial of the killer military man from the colonial authorities. Now, this is what the people of Ambazonia are subjected to in the hands of the colonial government and her military. Now, this is, I mean, there are two sides to this story already, but of course, there's no way someone who went to pick up her belongings would shoot herself to death.
Logically, it's inaccurate. I mean, it's inaccurate logically. I mean, the report, yes, from her father, you heard from her father says, you had the report from the father says he told her to go get her things. So why would she go get her things and then end up taking a gun and shooting herself?
Let's hear our in-house analyst, Mr. Ta. Let's hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think my thought will just come to add to the extreme, and you girls are just talking like detectives, because whatever justification the authorities, colonial authorities or administration is trying to give doesn't make sense. It's just a cover-up. And I would always want to take this side that brings the bigger picture. They kill our people every day with impunity. Every day. Hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, our people are killed. Now, the war that was met on us since 2017 was just an unveiling of the carnage, the evil that took over our land since 1961. The peoples of Amazonia have always been killed. Now the military, or the colonial military, or you want to call it, gendarmes of Aïdjo and Bia, or French Cameroon, we used to see them like gods. I told you guys last week, the sight of a gendarme was feared more than God in southern Cameroon, because they were behaving exactly. In fact, they were forces of occupation. They were not behaving like, they were having instructions, so they killed. And it's not the first time you have a civilian being killed by the military and nothing is done. So it's a lawless juxtaposition of colonial officials. It's a lawless nation. And our people continue to be victims. I would want to ask a question again. Why would a sister from Bui be dating a colonial officer? You know? But again, these are girls who have graduated and they have no jobs. So they put you in a place of a victim position, and then their miserable soldiers come to lure you in, beat you up, and kill you. This is what happened. It's unfortunate. Thank you.
In regards to the same story, I'd like to ask, I mean, to me, it's a rhetoric question, but just in fairness, if the colonial regime claims that this military boyfriend is innocent, why have they chosen to hinder the investigations for 10 days? Because it only proves like there's something you're hiding, there's some skeletons you're trying to hide. I mean, why hinder the investigations for 10 days and counting?
Now, Star Smart, this is the fact which I want you to get. There is nothing called a court in the Camerons. There is nothing called justice. Now, trying to even talk about an investigative process is giving a lot of credence. It is a juxtapose. It is a dockyard. It is a mess. So, whatever investigation, now they catch you and detain you or incarcerate you when they so please. There are lots of Southern Cameroonians in jail today not because they committed a crime. During this fight, we've had soldiers caught on camera raping girls. Nothing has been done to them. So it is a mess. Now, I don't want to talk about the process. It's just making you guys perhaps brought it up to make your story and your reporting sweet. There's nothing happening in Cameroon. It is like who they choose to arrest, they will arrest. Whether you have committed a crime, whether you're innocent or you're guilty. If you are a victim in their radar and they want to arrest you, you are arrested. It's a system I was born into. It's a system I was raised into. It's a system that I've grown to know it. And that's why we have chosen that it is going to be our way this time. Thank you.
All right, just one more question before we continue. Now, you asked a question. Are you saying that it might not be favorable for an Amazonian girl, for example, to fall in love with a Cameroonian man? Because really, it seems more like you just have to put your love in your pocket or else you lose your life while loving. Because you asked a question, what is an Amazonian girl looking for there? But I understand where you're going to. But has it gotten to that point where you can't even love or you have to choose who you love? Just trying to think about it.
Yeah, that is quite tricky. Now, there are two Cameroons. You have the Southern Cameroons and La République du Cameroun, which of course you know. When I'm talking about that, I'm just advising. You could have an exception. And of course, I have some Southern Cameroonian friends. Some individuals in Southern Cameroon who are honest. So it would be wrong for me to generalize. Like my friend Michel Biemton, he's an honest person. He's 100% La République du Cameroun. And as a journalist, even when he was back home, he was vocal. He was in Yaoundé. He has a relation with the Bias tribe. But he would speak the truth to power. And that is why he's abroad today. Because you cannot live in the Cameroonian setup as an honest person. You know, you either just stay quiet or you be a hypocrite. So bringing back the question to love, they say, you say, I have a different understanding about love. That's boundaries. We still have Amazonian ladies married to French Cameroonians. But now, I'm talking about the military, they are trained to be beasts, the bees. There's a mentality that is put in their minds. And they come to Southern Cameroons and they see every Southern Cameroonian like an experiment or a specimen for evil experiments. So you've got to be careful, the young lady. I know they have some blood money in their hands perhaps to give you. But all the Amazonian guys, at least, even if you want to do something, it's not with a soldier that has a gun and is killing your own people. It shouldn't be. Because the Amazonian Restoration Forces in the first place see that as a betrayal. And once you put yourself in that position whereby you would have to do that, you make yourself a military target. Think about the fact that an Amazonian Restoration Force is targeting a military, and then your caught pants down. The bullet could just take you.
The story is actually just a sad one because it ended with her life. It's just a sad one because it ended with, you know, her losing her life. Would like you to just hang in there for a little bit. We'll have you back shortly, but we'd like to move on with the news. All right, here is a report from NIJO, the Department of Resource Mobilization, about Award 22 national launch. Memo Award 22 national launch.
Yes, of course. From the Department of Finance and Resource Mobilization. It was dated Wednesday, 6 July 2022. And the subject is Award 22 national launch, updated record. So you want to be updated on the records and what has to be done. This is the time for you to take proper information.
Okay, and like we all know, he has been given another position to the one he already had. So on behalf of the Director for Finance and Resource Mobilization, NTNDHACM, he says, I would like to express our deepest gratitude for the huge successful leadership draft during the launch of Award 22. Your pledge is very important to your interim government as it helps with the continuity of funding our commitment for our quest for the independence of Ambazonia. With your draft funds of 2020 and 2021, we were able to successfully resist and reverse the slaughter of innocent, unarmed compatriots on home front by the murderous La République du Cameroon regime. With last year's achievements being the climax of our resistance endeavors, this would not have been possible nor successful without your act of generosity. The letter continues to read, we have notedly, regrettably, that many executives have not redeemed their pledges for Award 22. Our sincere appeal is that as leaders, we must not relent our commitment at this crucial stage. Please endeavor to redeem your pledge as a leader by the end of July, thus leading by example. Leading by example is a leadership style where you model the behavior you want to see in your team members. When you lead by example, you don't just push team members towards excellence, you actively demonstrate that excellence for Award 22 to be successful. We as leaders must demonstrate that success by honoring our pledges.
Based on the updated figures from local government areas, counties and cabinets, of course, leadership pledges, we are scheduled to commence county tours for Award 22 at the Great Mizam County on Saturday, 9th of July 2022 at 9 p.m. Amba time to send a loud and clear message to La République du Cameroon that our leadership location away from home front is designed to stay in place and pilot activities of our revolution until we arrive Boyer. Shake, no day. We are blessed to have you as Ambazonian history makers serving as leaders. We wish to thank all the county local government area executive members who have redeemed their pledges. We are also indebted to all those who presented updated figures at last night's meeting. For those who could not attend, please, we respectfully request that you endeavor to submit your figures to the Department for Finance Resource Mobilization and NT by close of business on Thursday, 8th of July 2022. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us for clarification. Your IG has a barrage of time-sensitive projects pending funding for execution, as highlighted by SOSDSD on behalf of your ANSC. Ambazonian leaders, please let us lead by example and redeem our pledges so as to forge our movement forward at this very crucial stage. You might have forgotten, but at the start of 2022, we set our sights on 3 dates. The first date was 20th May, which came and went. Second date, October, it's only about 50 days to go. And September is even closer. All right, it ends with thank you, joint statement, SOS, Department of Finance Resource Mobilization, NT and DHACM. Star, you would want to take us on the payment methods for people who may want to redeem their pledges immediately.
Something I'm used to. The USA account, PayPal, donations at amberlandhumanitarian.com, Cash App telephone +1 346 464 5055, hashtag $AmberlandHumanitarian, email donations at amberlandhumanitarian.com, Zelle Amberland Humanitarian. Email donations at amberlandhumanitarian.com UK. Bank account, account holder, Amberland Humanitarian, sort code 231470, account number 36934160. IBAN GB46 TRWI 23147036934160. Europe account, account holder, Amberland Humanitarian, BIC TRWI BEB1XXX, IBAN BE 30967313945011, Australian bank account, account holder, Amberland Humanitarian, BSB code 802985. Account number 917536233, Canadian bank account, account holder, Amberland Humanitarian, institution number 621, account number 2001102292567, transit number 16001, New Zealand account, account holder, Amberland Humanitarian, account number 042021 010453733. Thank you for always being a part of these donations.
All right, before we continue, we're supposed to have Nijo, but I think that Mr. Tar Paddy would step in for him. Let's have Mr. Tar once again. Yeah, Mr. Tar, thank you for standing by. So this Saturday, we'll be going to the Great Mazam County. You would want to say something about that?
Yes, I think very quickly, it has been shifted to the upper Saturday, the 16th. Okay. I think. Thank you for that. Mazam County, like you said, is a great county. In fact, every county in Ambazonia is great. Is great. But Mazam County is strategically great for Ambazonia and instrumental because you understand that Mazam is the county of Bamenda. Mazam has been victimized a lot when it comes to our struggle for freedom, the liberation movement. From times immemorial, Bamenda is notorious in the both Cameroons and of course the Francophones. La République du Cameroon calls every Southern Cameroonian Baminda. Just to tell you, it is because of of that person in Bamenda. It's not they use it for provocation, but also they use it because Bamenda has registered in their mind some form of resistance along the way. Am I saying that others are not doing their token? Now, why is Mezam a strategic debut for this draft of the year? Mezam is like 3 or 4 different counties together, and Mezam has always had the record of drafting the biggest. And I think the president, in his savoir intelligence, made that determination in liaison with the experts like Nijo. I thank him for granting me the chance to fill in the gap on his behalf, because drafting for Mezam and getting some things happening in Mezam is getting us even faster to our goal. Generally, I think the draft is long overdue, and the time for it to start is now. You just see we are reporting, as we are speaking, there is an existential ban in our homeland. People are victims and targets. They're either victims of targeted killing or random killing. As I speak to you right now, I just received a report which we might be giving that tomorrow, and our people have been slaughtered. 2 days ago, or the day before yesterday, we have a manslaughter in Goketunja, and it happens every day. Nobody's talking about it. None of the media in Cameroon is talking about it. So if ABC Amba TV stays, then we do it, because we've got to communicate this and communicate it globally. I want to seize this opportunity real quickly, ladies, if you will permit, to encourage all those who are yet to redeem their pledges for Award 22, or any dues maybe for the emergency fund drive that was launched. You've got to do that now. And like the president sees it, we are the ones to win it now. If we do not do it, then we'll be translating it to the next generation, something worse than we inherited. We know what we inherited. We inherited a land where we had no rights. We inherited enslavement. And evidence to that was when the lawyers and teachers made a civil request. What happened? They were beaten. Some were incarcerated. It's unfortunate that some of the legal minds were compromised. But that's not important today. That's a quarrel we can have inside the house. The important part that must never get out of our lips is the fact that at every time we as a people stood up to make a request, we were beaten. The GCE that is messed up today and that everyone is enjoying in the Cameroons today, the Southern Cameroonians, Anglophones like you want to call them, fought for it. Some were beaten, some were killed. Multipartism returned into the Cameroons because Southern Cameroonians wanted it. Our people were killed. Like Star Smart said in one of your promos, the genocide did not begin today. In 1961, when Aijo invaded Southern Cameroon, there was genocide. Oh yes, it's factual. We have details. We're compiling some historical facts, and we're going to make the world know. And that is why we have Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. We will bring all of those facts. In 1972, there was genocide. The front of Fumban brought genocide. Those who were against it were silent. Some were detained. We have Southern Cameroonians that have spent more than 4 decades in the dungeons of Cameroon as prisoners of war. Why is Sisiko in detention? What is their crime? Because they thought that the UN vote of April 21st, 1961 should be respected. That's why they're in jail. Cameroon would rather kill everybody to legalize illegality than to give us a chance for us to speak. We've got to draft. If there's one reason why every Ambazonian must start drafting, it's when you look at our babies are dying every day. That's a girl nobody's reporting. Thank God Undaunted is there. A military about it. When is this going to stop? Your draft will stop it. And you've got to draft. I want to thank everybody that has drafted. I want to thank all those who have joined our new Amba Elite Club. Thank you, ABC Amba TV Elite Club. Thank you. We have about 10 patrons. These are men and women who have decided that they're going to be giving us a minimum of $200, $500, $1,000 above every month. Thank you, Ambazonians, for those of you catching this vision and understanding it and handling it. Tomorrow, Dr. Mungwa will be live at 6 p.m. Amber time. It's going to be a very special program, and he'll be hosted by wonderful ladies. He's going to be making government, it's a state of the liberation war, and will be bringing some of these facts to you. Some of the reasons why we must beat Cameroon out of Ambazonia and the draft is the only way out. The successes we've had, it's thanks to the draft. Thank you, ladies. I hope I didn't take too long.
No, that's fine. Thank you so much for always joining us here on Undaunted. We continue with the news.
All right, the news this evening. IMF staff completes mission for the second reviews of the extended credit facility and extended fund facility for Cameroon, says outlook is clouded with considerable uncertainty as food and fuel prices soar.
End of mission press releases include statements of IMF staff team that convey preliminary findings after a visit to a country. The views expressed in the statement are those of the IMF staff and do not necessarily represent the view of the IMF's executive board. Based on the preliminary findings of this mission, staff will prepare a report that, subject to management approval, will be presented to the IMF's executive board for discussion and decision. IMF staff and the Cameroonian authorities have reached a staff-level agreement on policies that could support the executive board's approval of the second review of the program under the ECF and EFF arrangements, and lead to the disbursement of SDR 55.2 million. That's about 73.6 million US dollars.
If you consider the growth in 2021, it is estimated at 3.6%, which is slightly higher than envisaged. The authorities are reversing the 2022 budget in response to the surge in fuel and food import prices. Washington, D.C. and International Monetary Fund IMF staff team led by Amadou S.Y. concluded hybrid discussions with the Cameroonian authorities during the June 15 to 29th on the second review under the Extended Credit Facility EFC and the Extended Fund Facility EFF arrangement.
At the conclusion of the discussion, Mr. Sai issued the following statement. He said the IMF team has reached a staff-level agreement with the Cameroonian authorities on the economic and financial policies that could support the approval of the second review of the program under the ECF and EFF arrangements. The agreement is subject to approval of the IMF Executive Board in late July 2022, which would enable the disbursement of 55.2 million SDR, that's about 73.6 million US dollars. Economic growth slowed to 0.5% in 2020 after being affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and security tensions in the region. Growth rebounded in 2021 and reached 3.6% later on.
Inflation for the year averaged 2.3% and the current account deficit, including grants, widened to 4.0% of GDP. The economic outlook for 2022 remains positive and the economy is expected to grow by 3.8%. However, the outlook is clouded with considerable uncertainty arising from the sharp increase in international commodity prices, especially for oil, fertilizer, and foodstuff, accentuated by the war in Ukraine and tightened conditions in international financial markets. Average inflation is expected to rise to 4.6%, while higher oil export receipts should further improve the current account deficit to 2.1% of the GDP. The authorities are committed to a fiscal policy anchored on a gradual reduction of the deficit and are revising the budget to maintain the deficit cash basis, including grants at 2.5% of GDP, much the same as in the original budget. This should bring the stock of public debt down to around 44% of GDP by the end of 2022.
The impact of higher international oil prices on the budget is mixed, as the higher oil revenues are more than offset by substantially higher fuel subsidies, estimated at 2.9% of GDP from 0.5% in 2021, aimed at maintaining the administered retail fuel price exchange unchanged. The higher subsidy costs are therefore being accommodated by reducing other spending, including spending on investment projects. The high cost of fuel subsidies would be difficult to sustain under current international oil price projections. However, the gradual phasing out of fuel subsidies would need to be accompanied by a substantial scaling up of the social cash transfer mechanism. The team shared with the authorities concern with the rise in food prices and welcomed the authorities' effort to ensuring adequate supplies of fertilizers so that the next harvest will be plentiful. The medium-term outlook remains positive, though facing considerable uncertainties. The economic strategy remains focused on rebuilding fiscal and external buffers to sustain macroeconomic stability.
At the same time, the pace of structural reform needs to be accelerated for the country to meet its developmental goals. The business environment needs to be improved for the private sector to take the lead role in supporting growth. The team welcomed the authorities' continued efforts to improve public financial management and governance, including the accountability of budget execution. The team also welcomed the authorities' efforts to strengthen the financial management of state enterprises, including recent progress on Sonora's restructuring. The completion of key infrastructure projects, especially for energy and transport, should boost economic growth and support the replacement of imported with domestically produced goods. The team acknowledged the authorities' commitment to implementing policies consistent with the stability of the region's monetary arrangements, which includes rebuilding foreign exchange reserves at the Bank of Central African States (BEC).
And so, to this end, the authorities are working to strengthen compliance with the foreign exchange regulations, notably regarding the repatriations of export earnings, while not impeding legitimate payments overseas. The IMF staff team met with the Prime Minister Joseph Dion Ngute, the Minister and Secretary General of the Presidency, Ferdinand Ngongo, the Minister of Finance, Louis Paul Motaz, the Minister of the Economy, Planning and Regional Development, Alamin Ousmane May, the National Director of the BEAC, Eugene Blaise Nsom, and other senior officials. The mission also met with representatives of development partners, the diplomatic community, the private sector, and civil society. The team wishes to thank the Cameroonian authorities for their excellent cooperation and for the frank and constructive dialogue.
All right, this is a special...
You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned.
You know, we at Undaunted have a mandate to inform the misinformed and disinformed. Contrary to what some would want you to believe, we want to show you how the president, of course, President Samuel Ikomet Sako, got to where he is now. And we have captured it as how Dr. Sako survived to lead Ambazonia.
We have been able to compile 17 bullet points we believe you ought to know, so let's take slowly and do follow us closely. 1. Dr. Sako joined this interim government as an outsider, but was only persuaded by Sisiku Ayuk Julius Tabe. Sako joined the struggle as an influential activist known as Dr. Common Sense, never a conclave attendee at any time. 2. 2 months after he joined Sisiku Ayuk Julius Tabe, was kidnapped with members of the interim government in Nigeria. Bucket Mouth, who was a senior minister, and others like Bonga Hamani lost at the elections to replace Sisiku Ayuk Tabe. Bonga had 0 votes, Bucket Mouth had 1 vote, and Dr. Sako had all the other votes. Bonga quit the interim government, but Bucket Mouth vowed to stay and destroy Dr. Sako. Dr. Sako took over the interim government and met only $5,000 in the Sisiku's treasury. All the citizenship levy was gone, all the world tour donations to Sisiku Julius gone. The treasury was made up of Sisiku's brother, Brado Tabenyang, and high school girlfriend, Helen Akonji. There was no organized defense in Ambazonia. Sisiku and Milan's DOD was a big smokescreen. Even SCBC was another scam because it was a private enterprise owned by Sisiku and Milan but used Ambazonians to find. Dr. Sako dissolved the DOD scam and systematically phased out the SCBC thievery. Many of the scammers behind these scams launched a Sako Must Go movement called SCOOP and APNC, but they failed to remove Sako. Dr. Sako discovered another deal where the Sisiku team had agreed to pay his chief of staff, a former classmate of his, Mr. Elango, parading as a lobby group, $1 million to give Ambazonia independence and recognition. They were deceiving Ambazonians with demonstrations, but sharing their money amongst themselves. The people were being massacred in the home front with no defense force to resist the enemy.
6. Dr. Sako abolished the scams and established the ARFs. Of course, the ARF is the Ambazonian Restoration Forces. He launched My Trip to Boyer MTTB to fund the boys. The internal saboteurs like Nsofoncha, Cheb Celeste, etc. formed the defunct DOD, and the Sako Must Go group sabotaged the initiative by stealing MTTB money meant for the defense of the homeland. They wanted Sako to fail so Ambazonians would spill him out. Wicked people, you would say. Dr. Sako called for a national audit. Sisiku asked his brother, Brado and Helen Akonji not to collaborate with the audit. 13 auditors from all 13 counties audited Dr. Sako's government for 40 days and found that 1/4 of the MTTB was spent on funding the missing NIRA, and another 1% was spent on sustaining the SCBC scam, and the remaining half went into the hands of the saboteurs who were supposed to help the volunteer fighters on the ground. The audit found that Sako was never paid any salary like Sisiku. He did not siphon the people's money. The spoilers and the fake defense operatives were responsible for the lack of impact in the home front. They wanted Sako to fail. They even set up Dr. Sako to be abducted in South Africa using a fake deal known as Plan B. Sako escaped the trap by cancelling his trip to meet the deal makers. 8. Sisiku was advised by Banque to fire Dr. Sako from behind bars in 2019 after Buba's APNC's unsuccessful attempt to unseat Sako. Yaoundé told Sisiku to remove Sako so that they can negotiate with him for his release on one Cameroon solution. Sako was removed by Sisiku, but the people of Ambazonia said no. A prisoner in the hands of the enemy we are fighting cannot lead Ambazonia from behind bars. Ambazonians decided to take instead fire. And to fire the compromise, Sisiku, I beg your pardon, the Sisiku Must Go movement failed again. Chris Anu's mother was then abducted by Banque, and the regime entered into a deal with Chris Anu to help them remove Dr. Sako in return for the release of his mother and family. Anu took over the ABC and ran it as his private enterprise, was receiving money for satellite bills, but he was eating the money. In 1 year, ABC owed more than $100,000. Anu put himself on salary of $2,500 a month with 2 ghost workers in his payroll. No contracts to show for it. He was feeding fat on ABC. He siphoned money to produce an app for ABC, but until today, nothing to show for it. Dr. Sako decided to create a board of directors to take over the catastrophic management of ABC. Chris started his revolt, seeing his ABC was in the process of being taken away by the board.
And 11, Chris set up Dr. Sako to be eliminated in Ghana. Sako turned down the deal. Chris in late 2020 again set up Dr. Sako to be abducted in Addis Ababa. Sako turned down the deal as well. 12, Chris was on a mission critical to take up Dr. Sako by all means. He started assembling all dissenters within the interim government to remove Dr. Sako politically. 13, Anu brought a deal to Dr. Sako from a La République du Cameroon security agent pretending to be from CDC. The man wanted CDC to sponsor the interim government of Dr. Sako. The wise man Dr. Sako rejected the fake deal. 14, Anu brought other 2 fake deals to supply defense tools to the interim government as soon as the draft was launched successfully in 2020. The first was from Al-Haji in Angola, but Dr. Sako rejected it. The second was from another Al-Haji in Gambia, Liberia. He and his coup plotters joined Egianwa and Abongwa to persuade Dr. Sako to accept the deal. Dr. Sako assigned Abongwa to handle the fake deal they brought to him. They siphoned $135,000 from the interim government under the pretext of supplying tools to contain Chan and AFCON. When the counties insisted they want their money refunded, Chris Anu said that that will not be possible because his friend, the supplier, is a scammer. They wanted Dr. Sako to fail so that Ambazonians could remove him. 15, Chris Anu rallied renegades, the defunct RC Cometa, Abongwa, Egianwa, Chris Tentia, Asong, rogue activists, La Republic agents like Dr. Epa and Richard Tangu Yengo, and a few unscrupulous counties, local government area executives, and treasurers in some counties to bring down Sako with trumped-up allegations. They failed again. Dr. Sako challenged them to produce evidence, which they are still looking for till today.
Number 16, their final move is to remove Dr. Sako from the negotiation table as La République du Cameroon has requested and establish another government on GZ in the bush. Their decision is to destroy the struggle instead of Dr. Sako to have the final say, and the struggle for the restoration of independence of Southern Cameroons and gets rewarded by La République du Cameroon. 17, and the last, the so-called government of Mariante has failed woefully to the disappointment of Etiodi. Their next move is to do all to survive the court case against them and kill Dr. Sako physically. But God has made Dr. Sako a pillar for Ambazonian independence. Of course, this is to be continued, but we have Mr. Tapadi Kinki. I'm sure you want to say a word or two before we get you the editorial. Let's hear what Mr. Ta wants to say.
Yeah, fellow Ambazonians watching, we will publish the bullet points to you. You can go through them. You share them very widely. You ask those who have been highlighted in them to counter them. And I also want to seize this opportunity to announce to you that we have the newsroom now the Zoom meeting where Chris Arnold attested what the claim was, that he brought and had 135,000 US dollars swindled. You just heard on these bullet points how many deals he brought and the president rejected, until finally the team of bandits, I'm talking about Anu, Abongwa, Egawan has stolen a lot of money from this government, hundreds of thousands of dollars. In fact, after my trip to Boya, Ambazonians all rallied that the president should kick him out. But the president was patient with Egawan. Now, there are some things I want us to talk about in this regard that you've got to know. We are not just making up stories. I think it's high time we just bring them to you to say that Cristiano has been gunning for Sarko's head. Cristiano's relationship with Bankwi until today is not understood. He was sponsored by his government to go to Somaliland. And he brought up a mysterious rhetoric public by saying that Bankwi saw him on transit in Addis Ababa and told him that I saw you. How can Chris Arnold say this? Who is he saying? Is it to my dear old daughter or to my little boy? Because this is so stupid to tell adults that Bankwi saw you and called you. How did Bankwi get your number? So Bankwi saw you in Addis Ababa. Addis Ababa, anybody who has ever traveled via that airport, it's not an airport. Arnold was not a VIP traveler on that airport. It's not an airport whereby Bankwi traveling as a Cameroonian traveler uses the business class. So there is no concurrence. There's no way Bankwi could have just spotted him in the crowd and then called him to say, I saw you if I wanted to arrest you. Because why was he bringing that? He was trying to convince the president to go to African nation so that the president will be arrested. And so he was now telling the president, just understand that, hey, you look at it, the Bankwi guy may just want some negotiations with us. And I don't think. And he has done so. You've listened to all the accounts. And where you want to ask yourself, why is Anos so desperate to either sabotage, frame out? He's a liar, you all know by now. I cannot overemphasize that. You've had the evidence for yourself. He says something in the morning and in the afternoon he changes it. The facts are there. And one of these days, once he's gonna most probably be going to jail in the United States for his crimes committed, or when he will be losing a court case on things, you will now know that we're speaking the truth. If you're still a Thomas and you think that we're lying against Anos, just give a little bit of time. The United States of America is not a banana republic. There is an ongoing court case. Tell Anos that it's high time for him. Tell him that if he has evidence to substantiate everything he's saying, let him do a counter case. That is what Tapari King says. That he now has the allowance to do a counter case. There's a case against him in court. He should do a counter case and say that, and put me in it, and say that I am falsely accusing him. Character assassination is a crime in law, in international law, and even the national law in the United States of America. So he should do a counter case, period. That's all. So now let me just conclude on this. Why is Arnold disgruntled? The president beat him in an election. And thank God, cabinet members, Amazonians were wise enough to see that he couldn't be a leader. So since 2018 until today, Arnold has been gunning for power. He was trying, I think, even saying that he was trying to use political means after failing to assassinate or to use another means to remove the president. Saying that he was using a political means is an overstatement. It's an overrating of Arnold. Arnold does not understand the science of politics to employ a political means. I'm not just insulting him. He's so short-sighted. He doesn't even understand his own words. He was trying to use a clandestine means. That's the best way to describe it. Because Anu until today does not understand the constitution, the interim constitution. He has read it, no doubt, but he reads, he doesn't understand. Even the monologues that he reads them, he does not understand. I can prove that to you because his monologues are contradictory. So when Dennis Atemken writes for him monologues and he picks disjointed things, all he knew as Secretary of Communication was to put together articles written by people and then to come and read, and he was not really doing the reading well. You know, when you see Star Smart and Okpala read, you know, Anu is a mess of his own self. So he cannot even read what others write. And therefore, if you cannot read it, you cannot understand it. So saying that Anu used a political, you girls have just hyped him, used a political means. No, he was using a clandestine means. I'm trying to just be factual. So we are bringing this up now because in his desperation to rally some funds to fund his court case with a pretext that he wants you to fund his TV, he is trying to sabotage. But we have the facts. At least I'm one of those who has the facts. And the challenge, I'll conclude by giving this challenge again. If Mr. Anu, he has been taken to court now for his fraud and his lies telling. If he thinks that I am just falsely accusing him, Mr. Anu, I challenge you today before every 8 million Ambazonians home and abroad, do a counter suit. Thank you, ladies. I'm done.
All right. Thank you, Mr.
I'm done.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Ambazonians, let's bring you the editorial right about now.
It makes all the difference. In our editorial of today, we bring to you another beautiful and inspiring article from Don Juan Obi, titled, Our Fears of the Men We Love. We do not fear those who contrive moral platforms to revive or weaponize the power ambitions of Ayuk Tabe, Akwanga, Ayaba, Bo, disgraced Chris Anu, Baby Marianta, etc. But we are outraged by our own fear of the tendencies of some of these men. The picture you are seeing on screen tells the story of Ambazonians' triumphant might with circumstances and opportunity. It makes all the difference. On the picture, you see great leaders like Mola Njoli Tumbe, Fon Gorgi, Dika, John Ngufoncha, and others. They lived on both sides of acrimony, but forged a providential matrimony, unity, at the end for the sake of Ambazonia. We have done it, we have seen it done. We can do it and repeat it again. We are afraid not knowing what to expect from individuals who viciously campaign to end Ghost Town regime, then spin around the next day fighting for or claiming the authority to declare ghost towns. We fear that individuals who made certain having secured a Norwegian deal which doesn't exist may wake up the next day to ransom the nation or another falsehood. We are worried that individuals who claim to have reached a fake agreement with the Basque country to liberate Ambazonia will go on to announce a treaty with the Taliban. We fear that those who have declared a jihad on lies and accused us on the light of truth will eliminate every truth if given power. We are afraid that those who have called the interim government a Southwest government will only give leadership to sectarianism and tribal extremism. We fear that individuals who hold their claim for power above our prayers and pain will dethrone our God when their ambition is granted. We are scared that individuals who have unleashed enemy volumes of hateful venoms on the least provocation or apprehension of doubt will not hesitate to poison the soul of the Ambazonia if allowed to take power. We fear that we shall become lizard juice and french fries for the political entertainment of those who already reveal such egregious appetite for atrocities against fellow and innocent Ambazonians.
We fear that those who have fought so hard to stop Ambazonians from contributing to the treasury of the nation may as well mastermind the disappearance of Ambazonians' treasure when put in leadership position. We are concerned that individuals who wrestled over few thousands of dollars when invited and hosted as guests by President Samuel Sako to chart the nation's unity project will jump into the mud of disgrace on any bait when given the opportunity to represent Ambazonia internationally. We are alarmed that if the power ambition of certain individuals were to be accommodated, especially knowing how they have masterminded and celebrated the killings of fellow Ambazonian restoration fighters, they'll plot the death of our children. We fear that having brandished the likes of Ambassador Cohen as having been retained as Ambazonia's negotiator, who is also taken to the media to let call for the deportation of Ambazonians and Ambazonia leadership from the U.S. without any rebuke or condemnation whatsoever from the retainers, Team Ayuk Tabe. No one can tell what lies ahead if these men get to power. We fear that individuals who express no apology nor display sentiments for their mistakes, blunders, and bad behaviors to their direct victims, the people, will throw away every moral considerations if asked to lead Ambazonia. We fear that those who ganged up to malicious and viciously violate the interim constitution of Ambazonia in their reckless quest to overthrow their brother and patron will ally themselves and their self-interest and contract their intentions with instruments of evil against any Ambazonia. We fear that those who have contracted with strangers to scam Ambazonians' resources and empty the treasury will cut off our little pockets and shave our hairs when put to power. We are afraid the people who enjoy the liberty to take our attention to the sun today, the moon tomorrow, the heaven the next day, the gutter later on, the mountains after, and then to graveyards only for the fun of it, will as well autopilot us to any direction of their depraved instincts if ever allowed to lead. Amidst all these costly experiences, we still care for them, pray and hope that one day they might love Ambazonia with just 1% of the love and passion exhibited on their leadership claims and ambition for power. That was where he ended, and that's where we end our editorial for today. Wasn't that beautiful? If you want more articles like this, kindly visit our website at www.abcambertv.com for more. Subscribe and become a club member. Today, once again, I would like to exceptionally take you through our payment methods so that you can be a part of this winning strategy. It's simple. ABC Amber TV payment channels, Cash App, telephone number +1 240 486 8768. Hashtag $Amber ABC. Zelle, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. Telephone +1 240 486 8768. PayPal, payments at abcambertv.com. UK bank account, account holder, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. UK bank account, account holder, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation, sort code 231470. Account number 229908885. IBAN GB25TRWI 23147022990885. Europe account, account holder, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation, BIC TRWIBEB1XXX. IBAN BE4296730934 1854. Australian bank account, account holder, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation, BSB code 802985. Account number 2110400023. Canadian bank account, account holder, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation, institution number 621, account number 2001102861148. Transit number 16001. New Zealand account,
Account holder, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation, account number 0420210104200357. Thank you for your donations. I am Star Smart reporting for Undaunted ABC Amba News.
And in sports, Glacier has signed a 2-year deal until the summer of 2024. He left Nice last month after guiding them to field in League One and a runner-up finish in the French Cup last season. The 55-year-old who led Lille to the League One title in 2021 is PSG's 7th coach since the Qatar takeover of the club in 2021. He says, and I quote, "I am delighted to join Paris Saint-Germain. I would like to thank the chairman Nasser El Khalifa, Luis Campos, who is his football advisor, and the club for their confidence in me," he said.
9th seed Nori 26 battled hard to secure a 3-6-7-5-2-6-6-3-7-5 win against another club. Gabellison has more details.
Latest world sports. Paris Saint-Germain appoint Frenchman Christophe Galtier as manager after Mauricio Pochettino exit. Galtier has signed a 2-year deal until the summer of 2024. He left Nice last month after guiding them to 5th in Ligue 1 and a runner-up finish in the French Cup last season. The 55-year-old who led Lille to the Ligue 1 title in 2021 is PSG's 7th coach since the Qatari takeover of the club in 2011. "I am delighted to join Paris Saint-Germain. I would like to thank the chairman Nasser Al Khalifi, Luis Campos, football advisor, and the club for their confidence in me," he said. "I am fully aware of the responsibilities involved to coach this extraordinary team, which is one of the most competitive and spectacular squads in Europe." Galtier is one of only 2 managers to stop PSG winning Ligue 1 in the past decade, along with Leonardo Jardine's Monaco in 2016-2017. He resigned after leading Lille to that unexpected title success in May 2021 before spending 12 months at Nice. He previously managed Saint-Etienne. Pochettino, 50, leaves PSG after guiding them to a record equaling 10 French title last season, his first league success as a manager. The exit of the former Tottenham boss had been expected for almost a month now, but was only announced shortly before Galtier's appointment was confirmed on Tuesday. A club statement read, "Paris Saint-Germain confirmed that Mauricio Pochettino has ended his role at the club. The club would like to thank Mauricio Pochettino and his staff for their work and wish them the best for the future." The former PSG defender oversaw an unbeaten home record in the league this season, ending the campaign with 16 wins in 19 games. PSG regained the title, but their last 16 Champions League exit with Lionel Messi in the team was seen as a major failure. Tennis. Wimbledon. Cameron Norrie beats David Goffin to reach Wimbledon semi-finals. 9th seed Norrie, 26, battled hard to secure a 3-6, 7-5, 2-6, 6-3, 7-5 win against unseeded Belgian Goffin. As his name was chanted around Court 1, he was overcome with emotions. Norrie will now contest his Grand Slam semi-final, meeting defending champion Novak Djokovic on Friday. Asked for his reaction to beating Goffin, Norrie said, "Honestly, speechless. I can't even talk." The British men's #1, known for his laid-back demeanor, showed an unusual flicker of emotion during his on-court interview. The Duke and Duchess were among the 11,000 or so fans who watched as the world #12 absorbed the finest moment of his career. Norrie is the first British man to reach the Wimbledon singles semi-finals since Andy Murray in 2016, and the first British player since Johanna Konta in 2017. In the females category, Tatjana Maria to face Ons Jabeur in semi-finals. Tatjana Maria may have reached a maiden Grand Slam semi-final at Wimbledon, but for her elder daughter Charlotte, the best part about the win is 2 more days in the SW19 crutch. The world number 103 beat fellow German Yul Niemeyer 4-6, 6-2, 7-5 and will face Ons Jabeur, who became the first Arab to reach a major semi-final. Maria only returned to the tour a year ago after having her second daughter. "It's a dream to leave this with my family," Maria, 34, said. She will face third seed Jabber next after the Tunisian fought back to beat Maria Buskova 3-6, 6-1, 6-1. Maria dropped her racket to the floor and covered her mouth in disbelief after her victory was confirmed by a missed volley. Speaking before Jabber's win, Maria said she would relish playing hard with the two being good friends. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
And with that sports report, we have come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, here is a recap of our major stories.
The cost of living crisis driving breathtaking surge in extreme poverty, UNDP. New UK Finance Minister Zahawi pledges to boost the economy, says nothing off the table. We told you that it was totally unrealistic and clearly a lie to believe that Ambazonians could be absorbed into a unitary state. IMF staff completes mission for the second review of the extended credit facility and extended fund facility for Cameroon, says outlook is clouded with considerable uncertainty as food and fuel prices soar.
We discussed how the colonial authorities maintained sealed lips more than a week after a soldier allegedly killed his girlfriend. We discussed highlights of Memo Award 22 national launch. Today we told you that the IMF chief Kristalina Georgieva said the fund will downgrade in 2022 forecast for 3.6%. And in sports, we told you Paris Saint-Germain appoints Frenchman Christopher Glitter as manager after Mauricio Pochettino's exits. And that was it for Undaunted tonight, bringing to the news on top stories. On behalf of Michael, Anchor, Star Smart, and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in. I am Onyi Opbala.
We leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.